Hey folks, Dude here, and if you've been watching the news, you will see that there's a guy. I don't know the guy. I haven't done the internet searches on the guy. I have no intel on the guy whatsoever. What he's proposing to do, however, is to do an armed march on Washington, D.C. on July 4th. Now, in the scheme of things, and its basic, distilled, just bottom rung essence, yeah, it sounds great. I mean, there's a lot of cool tech to it that you're basically thinking through, going, okay, great. The Constitution says an armed society is a free society. Right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Militias basically have all these rights. You're in the militia if you're a U.S. citizen. You're in the militia if you're not prohibited from having firearms. You're a felon or anything along those lines. Cool. I get all that. That's great stuff. The only problem is you are marching in Washington, D.C. during the time of a hostile and very antagonistically, sincerely anti-gun administration. Now, if you go... excuse me 1 second here. Tiggy goodness. If you go into Washington, D.C. as an armed citizen, being a little messy, as an armed citizen, first and foremost, you have to remember two very distinctly important things about Washington, D.C. One, it is not just the seat of government in the United States. Two, it is not a state. It is more than anything, it's a park. It really is like a big national park where they have a bunch of all these things that basically is the seat of the U.S. government, and all these things are in one place. Okay? For a very good reason. I mean, there's a reason why D.C. is D.C. Here's the second thing. There is no less than 20 distinct police agencies, entities, and all kinds of other stuff like you don't even want to get into Washington, D.C. Now, let me put this in perspective, folks. I have had badges, okay? I had a USDA badge, and I had a Navy badge. I got to the point where the guards knew me from seeing me day to day. They would wave me through. That is years ago, okay? Nowadays, they will walk up, and they will go, okay, you're Joe Blow. And they will take your badge, and they will actually look at your badge and read it verbatim to make sure the information is correct. If not, actually scan it. If not, actually see if the RFID is not like, making sure that their unit reads the RFID in your badge to make sure you're the correct person going into the correct building with clearance, unescorted or escorted. Now, the thing is, I was unescorted, okay? I went into a fairly secure place. If you guys want to look it up, it's a place called Carderock Defense Research Area. And it's literally off the George Washington Parkway, just north off of D.C. And it's a fairly secure place, okay? The reason for it being is if you look it up on Wikipedia, it is the largest pool of fresh water in the world. It's the biggest swimming pool you'll ever see. The water's clean. The water's purified. However many times it takes for basically the stuff to stay clear so you can see through it. The reason for this place is they design our Navy's boats. Now, if you take a boat and you basically make it one way, it goes and it takes 60% of the power to push itself through the water. If you design it another way, it takes 30%. 30% means it's faster versus 60%. But that's neither here nor there. I was in this place years and years ago because I had the clearances. Big difference. If you do not have the badges, you don't pass by the gate. If you pull up in the driveway, they're going to ask why you're here, okay? Now, I can tell you for a fact, years back when I was doing repos, stupidly, I parked with my coworker, and he's like, nah, it's cool. Signs everywhere. Do not park here. Do not take photographs. Do not look at the place. And I got basically on a list for a short period in time, basically to see if I drew up a second hit. Years ago. Years and years and years and years ago, okay? Now, let me put this in perspective. Mrs. Dude works for the government. And she works for the government in such a manner that, let's just say that she can't talk about certain aspects of her job, and I got checked before I married her. I didn't come up with the system, okay? So basically what it was is the place where I parked, where I shouldn't have parked, in the tow truck, and I was joking with the cops. The cops were cool. They're like, let me just get your ID, and we'll run you if you have no hits. You'll basically, and I actually asked the guys, like, stupid question, how long am I going to be in system? He goes, you're going to be in system for a period in time, which I can't tell you, but if there's no other hits, basically they just go, okay, he was Joe Blow, stupid, parked here, he shouldn't have parked here, kicked out of the system. If you go to Washington, D.C. with something hanging over your shoulder that goes bang, and you are not a resident in Washington, D.C., let's just say they could have the slightest nuance to walk up to you and go, who are you? I don't have to tell you, I'm a sovereign citizen of a sovereign state. You basically can suck my butt. I'm not telling you. That's cool. Fourth Amendment, you basically can tell the cop to go pound sand. The downside is if it's a situation where they cordon off an area and you have a parade permit, there's certain rights you have given up. Now, I can tell you for a fact, there was a couple of get-togethers, and I actually saw, and actually attended this thing. Supposedly Nugent was supposed to attend. He didn't make it. G. Gordon Liddy did attend, and I saw him speaking live. 110-degree temperatures, middle of summertime. He's wearing a three-piece suit. I don't know how the hell he did it, but they told us specifically, you can have signs. You cannot have signs with sticks. Now, if you're walking around with a rifle hanging over your shoulder, that's a 1-meter stick. They can simply say, we don't want you walking around with sticks. Now, if you're walking around with a pistol and you don't have a carry permit and D.C. does not have reciprocity, you're screwed. And I don't mean just screwed. You're screwed felony style, because they go, you walked across the D.C. line, okay? You weren't supposed to walk across the D.C. line with a handgun. You weren't supposed to walk across the D.C. line with a handgun without proper permit. You weren't supposed to walk across the D.C. line without a proper permit and carrying a loaded firearm with excessive magazine capacity that we state is going to be the number of X. You see, this is a sticky wicket, and it's a snowball going downhill gathering snow. Case in point, I would tell anybody that listens to this video, best advice, do not go to D.C. with a firearm on your person ever. Just like when you're traveling up 95, do not drive through New York City with a firearm on board your car, ever. There's been people who have been licensed, they had everything properly done, they had the CCWs from their home state. There is no reciprocity in New York City. You will get screwed, they will seize all your stuff, and you will become a felon. Do not do these things. I cannot tell you strongly enough, if you put yourself in a situation, you're setting yourself up for failure, it is going to come back and is going to bite you in the ass with shark teeth like you don't want to know. Do not go to Washington, D.C. on July 4th with a firearm. That's it. That's it, cut and dry. Now, I don't know who this guy is, if he's Asian provocateur, or if he's just some Joe Blow average that basically said, hey, you know what? Let's strike a blow for freedom. Let's go down there and show them who's who's the power base of the United States, and basically show up in numbers and tell them in no uncertain form that we basically are libertarian in our aspects of having freedom reign. That's cool, man. I get all that, okay? I'm a libertarian, but here's the dirty little secret. In my state of residence, it sucks, okay? It's the People's Republic of Maryland, and freedom comes second. If you ever see Martin O'Malley ever come up for president, do not vote for him, okay? He is a world-class, classic definition of the worst case of asshole you will ever find on the face of planet Earth. Do not vote for Martin O'Malley in no matter way, shape, and form, okay? He's just a total piece of crap. Now, the other thing, too, is I can tell you for a fact, if you screw yourself in Washington, D.C. with your firearms rights, you're hosed. You're completely hosed. And it doesn't matter what of the contiguous 48 states you try to go to. If you screw up in D.C., you're done. Once you get your felony status, you lose your firearms, you're down to black powder, and you better have a state that's going to be nice enough to let you have black powder. It's just the way it is. All right, folks, I'm going to break off on this one, but do not go to D.C. on July 4th with a firearm. Trust me on this one. It will not work out for you. All the cops got to do is say the first guy that basically we don't like, and then the dominoes start falling. Do not do this to yourself. You will set yourself up for failure, and I don't care how good a cause it is. It will bite you in the ass. Bad. Real bad. Like felony style, you won't be able to keep your firearms any longer, and if you even then decide to make it 80% lower, and you get busted with that, that's a second felony. Don't do these things to yourself, folks. Be safe. All right, folks, I'm going to break off of this one. Eat good, keep it a 10 ring, and as always, you know it, you love it. I'm showing half my face this time. Good times. Have a good weekend, everybody, and see ya.